recording. Yeah.
Hello, career thought leaders. We're excited to see you today. And you probably noticed that we have some amazing guests on our Trend Tuesday Live. We do go live every Tuesday talking about the now, the new, and the next in careers. And today I'm excited to have Amelia, Brooke, and Nelson Emilio with me. We're going to be talking about all things storytelling and LinkedIn. So go ahead and drop a note. I don't know, see if I can get my comments up here. Go ahead and drop a note, say hello if you're joining us, and say hello and welcome Amelia Nelson to the stage. So we are going to be talking about storytelling because Amelia and I are doing a presentation at the symposium on storytelling. We're going to talk about LinkedIn because Nelson is doing a presentation at the symposium about LinkedIn. And Nelson has been a presenter for us before on this topic and very well regarded. Everybody so enjoyed your presentation. Now it's 3 years ago. It's hard to believe it's been that long.
Yes, it was 2 years. 2 years is a long time ago.
Yeah. So, Amelia, why don't you just introduce yourself briefly, and then we'll have Nelson introduce himself, and then we'll dive into storytelling.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for having me. I'm Amelia Brooke. I'm founder of ABCV, Amelia Brooke Career Vision. I've been writing CVs or resumes for over 10 years and coming up to ABCV 10th anniversary this year. And I also do look after the career coaching side of things, all the way from your clarification on career aspirations right through to the interview preparations and the first 90 days.
I love it. Yes, excellent. Then Nelson, how about you?
Well, I'm Nelson Emilio, based in Lisbon, Portugal, and I'm a personal branding and leadership strategist. So I deliver training on leadership and consulting leadership, personal branding, communication across the globe in Portuguese, Spanish, and in English. And storytelling, LinkedIn is two of my passions when we are talking about personal branding.
Excellent. Yes. So, first of all, let's start talking a little bit about why storytelling. I mean, storytelling has been kind of a buzzword for a long time, but especially when we're talking about careers and communication. Amelia, kick us off here. Why is storytelling so important for people?
Oh, absolutely it is. It's so important, I think, for three real reasons. I think when we're able to capture the content and we're able to talk about the challenges and actions and results that relate to a client's accomplishments, I think three things happen. I mean, first of all, the resume comes to life. You know, the personality pops off the paper. The same time, the client's confidence soars. They actually get a better impact, understanding and appreciation for the impact that their work has in the organization. And for the third reason that it's important is because of professional writers like myself. It makes my day and my work so much more enjoyable.
Right. And as we were talking about before, it makes people unique, and that's especially important right now when we look at the incoming of AI, that when people have a real story about what they've done and they get that into their profile or their resume, right, then it's clear to the employer right away that that has a little bit more credibility maybe than a story that sounds generic that could have been created by something something else, not that human, right?
Absolutely. And I think you've said it in the past where you use that example of sales manager. All the sales manager are going to put that they've had 100%, they've hit their targets, and so is everyone else. So what else can you put in that resume that's going to make you stand out? And that's where weaving that storytelling element into the bullet points can really make a big difference.
Yes, yes. Nelson, how do you see that play out in LinkedIn? And I know you work, not with job seekers, but with leaders and people who are advancing. So how does storytelling fit into your work?
Well, storytelling is critical because we like stories. We all like stories. The good ones, the bad ones, the challenging ones, the funny ones. And I think storytelling is the spice that we can add to a LinkedIn profile where we can bring out our personality. So as you mentioned before, so AI is coming to play in everything that we do, and storytelling, bringing our personality is what brings life and differentiate us from everyone else, because we all have a story. Sometimes the difficulty is to how can we tell that story in a way that resonates on the other side when we are reading a LinkedIn profile. And that's our challenge, not only from our side when we work LinkedIn, but also on the storytelling. And as Emily said, so it's basically how can we put everything in the resume and LinkedIn that resonates with our audience.
Yeah. Yeah, because really that's what it's about is connecting. That stories are that connecting tissue between me and my audience so that people really resonate with where we are now and where we could be as well. So we have a few people that have joined us. I'll just flash them up here on the screen. So hi Anne, thanks for joining us. And Laura and Jeff, it's so great to have all of you. Thanks for chiming in and joining in. And excited to have you all here. So, as I said before, we're chatting today with Amelia and Nelson. Both of them will be presenting at the symposium in Lisbon. And get this little alert that shows up on my phone for the prices, the airfare, and it's back down again today because it's Tuesday, Wednesday, flight prices go back down again. So I was checking to see, what does it look like? I know for some people, they could take the train. Birgitta from Sweden, she's taking the train over to Portugal, which is fun. And so we were talking a little bit about storytelling. Nelson, tell me what you see, because one of the challenges I see, at least, and see what you say, is that people don't know how to make connections on LinkedIn. What I hear a lot about is, get found and have the right content. And we know storytelling is key, but that's so passive. And I don't really love the passive game. So I know you help people be a little more active on LinkedIn. What are a few tips for people to be more proactive and find the right connections versus waiting to get found?
Well, first of all, what I see, it's a lot of people focus on content. Content is important, but content on itself doesn't bring all your clients. And for example, you go to my LinkedIn and you don't see a lot of content, but most of my clients come from LinkedIn. Why? Because we can be on LinkedIn in three ways. One, we can be on LinkedIn to attract. We can be on LinkedIn to go after our clients, and we can be on LinkedIn with these two both perspectives. But the problem is we have difficulties to connect. Sometimes we have difficulties to send an invitation to connect, and we don't know what to say in those 300 words that we have for personalize our message. And people are afraid of rejection. They are afraid of, oh, I don't know if the other person will accept or not my connection request. Well, guess what? They are not your connection right now. So you don't have anything to lose. You can send a connection request and say, hi, I'm enlarging my network to X areas or these kind of professionals, or I saw one of your posts or one of your articles or one of your videos, and it resonated with me, and I would love to connect with you. And sometimes exchange ideas. So you don't need to send the message because sometimes we are afraid to send this message because we see a lot of connection requests that already in the message there is a sales message, sales pitch, and we think that by sending something, well, maybe the other person will think that we are trying to sell. Well, we have a moment to do that. Now we need to connect. And if you go and see LinkedIn's mission is very simple, is to connect professionals and make them more productive and successful. Connection, messaging is the key of success on LinkedIn, and most people forget about it.
Yeah. And it's that, like you said, it's a little bit more skin in the game to make that connection. And posting content, while challenging for most people thinking about posting content, even more challenging is thinking about reaching out to someone. So I love that, the three ways that we can be on LinkedIn and really considering how we can make more connections. It's great. And I know a lot of people whose main business comes from LinkedIn that don't post very much content, and it kind of flips our idea around what we think in sales, in conversation, in lead generation, and even for job seekers, that it's not about them posting content, but it's about them engaging and using the system to start conversations.
Let me
Amelia, are
add,
you working with any? Oh, go ahead, Nelson.
yes, let me add an important tip, which is research. Research is a very important keyword because if you do your own work researching your prospects, if you are looking for a job, researching about the company on the internet, but also on social media, who are the key important contacts inside that company, and LinkedIn can give you all that kind of information. Then you can send a connection request to specific content, to a specific person, and personalize that message in a way that the other persons think, okay, this person is truly connecting, wants to connect with me without selling anything. And then you can have a conversation, because conversation is critical when we want to strengthen these bonds, these connections with others. But first of all, do your homework, research.
Yeah, and LinkedIn makes it so easy to do that
Yep.
research with all of their systems and their suggestions, and it's not really as hard as we make it sometimes, is it?
Yeah.
Excellent. And so, Amelia, sorry, I started to ask you too. What do you see with clients on LinkedIn? Are they using LinkedIn to find people and make connections?
I think
Well,
two things. I think the main thing I do see is a proper cut and paste of people's CVs or resumes into their LinkedIn, which is a shame, really, because it's almost you're giving all your secrets away and you're unable to tailor it to your target audience. It's almost like the spray and pray method. Put it all out there and hopefully something will stick. So yeah, that's something that I work with clients to let them know that LinkedIn is authored with a different language, a different feel about it. It's a lot more personal. The other thing I noticed, actually, going into what Nelson was saying about the power of connections, is sometimes I've got clients that come to me and they say, I've had a look myself and I love these people's LinkedIn profiles. I want mine to look like theirs. And I say, that's amazing. Have you reached out to these people? Have you let them know you feel that way? No, they haven't, for fear of the not accepting the request. So as Nelson was saying, nothing tried, nothing gained. So I really encourage them, once we've worked their CV to their LinkedIn profile, to a standard that they're happy with, to then go back and say, hey, look, you're the inspiration for me working on my LinkedIn profile. I'd love to connect and take things from there.
Oh, the ever good compliment, right? I think people underestimate the power of a compliment, like
Oh,
you said
absolutely.
earlier, Nelson, people's post or their content, and that also shows that you've read it, which then you're automatically differentiating yourself from the bots and the salespeople when you've shown that you've read something that they put on their profile or in their article. What other tips would you give around storytelling? But you just brought up something important, Amelia, that the LinkedIn profile is going to be different from the CV or resume. How do you help people decide on those differences?
With the CV, it's a lot more targeted. So the CV, we're looking at who the target employer is, the target industry. We're looking at the challenges that are happening within those industries, and we're trying to ascertain what problems have they solved in the past. Think of the measurable, quantifiable results that speak to that employer, and ensure that it's woven into the fabric of the CV itself. So it's a lot more strategic, targeted document. Whereas the LinkedIn profile, you can expand on that a little bit. You can allow a little bit more context to flow through, perhaps what was happening in the industry, what was happening in the organization as a whole, where you wouldn't necessarily be allowed to, or not be allowed, but able to weave that into a CV without it becoming 3-4 pages long.
Excellent. Yeah. And Nelson, I'm interested. You were talking about messaging earlier. So, Amelia, we get people's stories all together on their profile. Um, Maybe just give us a few tips, Nelson, in terms of research. How do you help people find their target audience, or where do you find that they get tripped up?
Well, one of the things they can do is, first of all, they have to do two things. One, we are looking for leaders or sales professionals or job seekers. So depending on the profile, what they need to do is, first they need to go and look for the companies they want to work for example, and that's one of the starting point. And then inside the company, you have the possibility to see who works there, and you can filter by roles, you can filter by location. So that's one of the ways you can try to find your target audience on LinkedIn. But also you can use several keywords to in the search engine, because LinkedIn is a search engine. So basically LinkedIn has all these huge database with profiles that you can use. Other way to do your research can be your network. So sometimes connections of your connection. So it's a good way to find the right person. For example, I use LinkedIn Search Navigator, which is a different tool. It's a great tool that gives me much in-depth information related to this connection, so I can do a better job. But even if you have the LinkedIn free version, you can use these features to use your network, the network of your network, people that interact with content that exists already in your feed, and you can identify who is this person. And for example, one of the tips in order to better understand who is the person that you want to interact is once you find this person, you can bookmark his LinkedIn profile and then go there once per week to see what is the activity, what he or she posts, the reactions, and you get a better understanding on what is a personality, what is the well, sometimes you don't have a lot of information, right? But you understand what kind of things this person likes and interacts with, and then you can send your connection, your invitation to connect, and start interacting with this person, being you. That's the most important thing. And as we are talking about connections, there is, well, on LinkedIn, there is no secrets, but we can say there is an important thing that you can consider, which is the quality of your network. Sometimes people think about, well, let me enlarge my network up to the 30,000 users allowed on LinkedIn, but the quality of your network is critical for your positioning inside LinkedIn, even with your content. If you have a very low quality network, meaning no different areas of expertise, for example, different levels of seniority inside the company, probably if you work or you want to work to a company abroad, maybe you don't have connections on that country. So in all these aspects that you need to consider, that goes beyond the LinkedIn profile itself.
Yes, yes. And I love that idea of kind of mapping out before you even worry about LinkedIn, mapping out who is it that I want to know? Who is it that needs to know me? And in the digital branding class, we talk a little bit about that diversity of our networks, that there's some research that shows if your network is all the same, you've limited your opportunities. And I typically use an engineering example because my husband's an engineer. So I think, okay, if all he knows is other engineers, it's going to be harder for him to make a move, right? The fact that he might know a manager or a sales manager, if he doesn't know those people, then he's limited in his mobility. But if he knows other salespeople, if he knows people in other companies, if he knows managers and leaders, once you start to get that diversity of network, you have more mobility, even if it's the same size. And people don't often think about that, kind of diversity of your network. They just think about the size, which can be overwhelming for some people. And so I love that focus on quality and really the strategy piece of where you want to go, not just the numbers. Um,
Can
and
I can give you two tips around that. One is use a mind map. Use a mind map to identify the areas where you want to grow your network. So then you map everything. And secondly, when you ask for a connection request, then add that person to an Excel file, for example, or Google, whatever you want to use. And you add several columns, like, for example, type of company, role of this person, location, and by doing that, you have everything mapped because there is no tool. LinkedIn, many, many, many years ago, showed us a graph where we could see where we had our connections, but then they take down that option. But you can do that manually. It takes time, yes, but you will profit from it for sure, no matter what you want to gain out of LinkedIn.
yes, yes. Well, I love that. So when you gave your presentation a couple years ago, people said, "Oh, that's great, but I don't want to do Sales Navigator." And I said, "Well, start it on a spreadsheet." Because one, even if you think you might want to use Sales Navigator, if you start on a spreadsheet, you'll get a flow and you'll kind of get an idea of what you want to do. And two, you might decide that you don't really need that. So I, for instance, am uh, grandfathered into LinkedIn a really long time ago. So I have this premium account of LinkedIn that costs me nearly nothing. And I'm really hesitant to go to Sales Navigator because I know that I'll lose my special status, right? I'll lose my level that I don't want to really pay for. So I have a spreadsheet and I use my CRM as well. but I use some of those other tools to do the same things you can do in Sales Navigator because I'm already paying for those other tools. So I just love that idea of being strategic of your networking. Thank you for sharing that. Now, Amelia, we had someone ask a question about storytelling. How do you really connect the storytelling to your career? So, it's nice to talk about storytelling, but what does that look like in a resume? I don't know if you could give us a little bit more detail that would help this person understand what storytelling might look like in a resume or a profile.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are certainly lots of ways, and one of the very first ways we can do that is the very first word in the sentence of a CV, and that usually is an adjective to describe somebody, and that's why we always see things like hardworking and enthusiastic and results orientated. But if we could really break that down and really describe the person for who they are, how would they describe themselves to a friend, not how would they describe themselves as they think they need to do in a CV. That's a really powerful way to set the tone for the rest of the document. But a lot of the times what people worry about with storytelling is they think they're going to lose the connection between keywords in the CV versus keywords in the job description. And yes, keywords and skills are really important. We do work on skills matching algorithms, so we need them to be there. So quite often people use a core competency or a key skills section on the CV, and they may list what's required of the job description. So for example, if we're looking at a role, it's requiring project management, team leadership, and negotiation. Quite often we see those words just floating there, taking up space on the CV, and people think, well, that's enough. I've done a keyword match, a skills match. Well, that's fine, but the chances are everyone else has done the same. So how are we going to set you apart? Well, the next stage we can do is to talk about each of those elements, amongst others, those top three, and weave them into the bullet points in your CV. But even better yet, what we can do is actually take away the core competency section altogether and ensure that every bullet point has that keyword in it. So if we use negotiation as an example, instead of just having negotiation, we could write something along the lines of simplify the supply chain through negotiation with core suppliers, leading to a reduction in cost by 20%. Bang, there's our negotiation keyword. It's weaved into the bullet point, and we can take away that core experience section at the top. And that's one of the fun ways I like to work the story into the actual document itself.
Yes, yes. And that keyword match, I wrote today on LinkedIn, like that's just superficial. That's the bare minimum.
Yes.
Branding, we would say that's the commodity. The keyword is a commodity, and it might get you through the screening system if there is one. But when the human looks at it, the human wants proof that you can do that proof that you've done it, and they need more. And that's where those kind of core competencies really fall down to the wayside. Now, Nelson, on the LinkedIn side of things, they recently went to where you can list 100 skills instead of 50. What's your hot take on that? 100 skills. Should people go in there and slap 100 skills in their profile?
Well, I think they will use it, but the thing is, my perspective and also some information, let's say inside information. I know that LinkedIn is working on different areas on the platform. One of those is the skills itself, and you can see there was different approaches along the years around skills, and now we can add skills up to 5 skills in each one of the sections where you're allowed in experience, for example. We can highlight our top 5 skills in the about section, which will have more importance by the end of this month. Now, the skills are important, of course, as a keyword, but they need to be contextualized, as Amelia said perfectly. Like we need to tell a story around the skills, because it doesn't matter to have the skill by itself, because otherwise LinkedIn is a search engine, and it's okay, they are trying to use this as a pure search engine like in the past, where we had the pure SEO. Yes, it's important, but we need to tell a story around our skills. You are not going to differentiate yourself. You just add the skills to experience and you put the 100 skills available, because that's basically words. Now, if you remember, several years ago, LinkedIn had the opportunity to say, okay, I recommend the resume skill to Amelia, but and based on my experience as a client, as a partner, as an employee, and also what is the proficiency of these skills is a very highly skilled professional, and that will come back again to LinkedIn because having only the word, well, it has some weight, but what is the exact level of proficiency of that skill? And I think that LinkedIn will be bringing back again something similar to that in order for us to recommend a skill, but based on our experience, on our interaction, because that's the key point: interaction, personalization of everything that we have inside LinkedIn. Just don't follow formulas that you see. Just try to think about what are my most important skills and put that on top. Also, ask for people when they recommend, mention those skills, for example, because you can do that. So you have a recommendation. So do you remember when we had the first, for example, when we had the negotiation process 2 years ago? I think that it will be useful for me if you add that information on how I was able to negotiate, so whatever. So I'm making up the story, but so based on the interaction that we can have on the recommendation, so ask if the person can add the word, the skill to that sentence, for example.
I love that. Yeah,
I love that.
the
Yeah.
recommendations have to be strategic too, and communicating with our recommenders what we want them to what we want them to negotiate, what we want them to say about our negotiation skills. So I'll just say that a few years ago we created a quiz about LinkedIn. It goes through 3 areas: your content, your connections, and your community. And if you want to take that short quiz, we'll send you the results for that, and then we'll also send you some goodies that we're putting together around this topic, because we're going to be talking about LinkedIn for a little bit here as we go through the weeks here on the Trend Tuesday Live. The other thing that we're going to be talking about here is, as I said, Symposium in Lisbon, and just right from the source, right? Nelson, tell us why we're going to love being in Lisbon.
Well, I'm I will be biased, but you will love Lisbon. If you don't know Lisbon, you love Portugal. So you love the food, the people, the weather, so these are the landscapes, everything. So when you arrive, since you leave, you will love everything. And Marie planned already a tour to a very beautiful place called Sintra, where you have a beautiful landscapes, a beautiful castle, and beautiful, no, not beautiful, delicious pastry. So if you like food, any kind of food, pastry, whatever, fish, meat, Portugal is the place to be in April.
I'm so excited to join you and to learn more about what's coming up with LinkedIn. You're always in the know, so thank you for sharing a little bit of that with us. And Amelia, of course, excited to present our session on storytelling and to really help resume writers and career coaches differentiate themselves while they're differentiating their clients through these more strategic stories that we can help our clients tell. So thank you both very much for joining me today. And we'll be back here again next week on Trend Tuesday, where the now, the new, and the next in careers. And we will see both of you in Lisbon in 5 weeks from today. So thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Marie.
Maria.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye
Thanks,
bye,
Nelson.
everyone. And I want to see you in Lisbon.
Yes.